Welcome students. Today in this class we will study about the mechanism, the slider crank mechanism and the various inversions of slider crank mechanism. So first let me tell you the definition of a mechanism. So what is the definition of a mechanism? When one of the links of a kinematic chain is fixed, okay, then the chain is known as what? Mechanism. Okay, and what is the function of mechanism? It transmits and modify the motion. Clear? So this is the basic definition of a mechanism. So next we will start the slider crank mechanism or slider crank chain. Clear? As you can see here, so a single slider crank chain, it is the modification of what? Basic 4-bar chain. So it consists of a sliding pair, means there is one sliding pair and 3 turning pairs. Okay, you have to remember that point. It has one sliding pair and 3 turning pairs, and it usually found in reciprocating steam engine mechanisms. Okay, this type of mechanism converts what? Rotary motion into reciprocating motion, and correspondingly vice versa, that is reciprocating motion into rotary motion. Okay, so let me show all the parts. This is a cylinder and it is a piston. This is your connecting rod, this is your crank. Okay, so let the cylinder and piston, the piston will reciprocate inside the cylinder. So cylinder and piston behaves or form a sliding pair. Okay, now the junction where the piston and the connecting rod are connected at this point connecting rod and piston will form a turning pair. Why? The connecting rod will oscillate about this point, that's why it will form a turning pair. There is one turning pair. Another point is where connecting rod and crank is connected at this point. At this point there is a turning motion between the connecting rod and the crank, that's why it is your second turning pair. And third turning pair is the frame and the crank. This is your frame. At this junction, at this point, the crank will revolve about the frame, that's why the crank and this frame will form third turning pair. So first turning pair is here, second turning pair is here, and third turning pair is at here. And one sliding pair, that is the relation, means the motion between piston and cylinder. Okay, so you have to remember it has one sliding pair and 3 turning pairs. 3 turning pairs. Okay, now we will check the different inversions of slider crank mechanism. Okay, so there is basically 4 parts. Okay, one is cylinder, piston, connecting rod and crank. Okay, inversion means we will fix different parts and we will get or we will check what the output of the machine will give. Okay, so first we will fix the cylinder, then we will see which type of motions or which type of machines we can get. Next we will fix the piston, similarly connecting rod and crank. Okay, so let's do first when cylinder is fixed. When cylinder fixed means when you fix the cylinder. So at this case, when you are fix the cylinder, so in this case you will get one is your IC engine and the second one is your reciprocating compressor. Clear? So when cylinder is fixed, you will get two different machines. One is your IC engine and another is your reciprocating compressor. So how these two machines are formed? Now look here in this figure. Let the cylinder is full of gas or fuel. Okay, now look here. If your input is at your crank, means you are providing the input at your crank, means crank, what is the function of the crank? It will rotate. Okay, the crank will rotate, means if your input is if you are providing input at the crank, your output will be at your piston side, means the piston will compress the gas. Okay, the piston will compress the gas. So as the name suggests, as it is compressing the gas, the machine will become a reciprocating compressor. So clear? What happens in reciprocating compressor? Your input is at your crank and your output at your piston. Clear? Now see the reverse case. If your input is at your piston side, means if you are burning the fuel inside the engine cylinder, okay, as you already studied this part in your third semester, okay, I think, okay, so as you are burning the fuel inside the cylinder, means at this case the gas produced by the burning of the fuel will force the piston in this direction, means here input is in piston side, then means piston will go in this direction in right hand side, means ultimately your output will be generated at crank side. So your output will be generated at crank, means your crank will be in your rotating motion. So this means this crank is connected at your crankshaft, and crankshaft is connected to the axles or wheels, means it will become your what? IC engine. Okay, so remember, when cylinder is fixed, you are getting two machines, one is your IC engine, another is your reciprocating compressor. Clear? Now second, we are fixing the what? Now we are fixing the, suppose crank is fixed. If you are fixing the crank, in this case again you are getting two different motions or mechanisms. One is your Whitworth quick return motion mechanism. I am shortcutly writing QRMM, quick return motion mechanism, and another one is your rotary IC engine. Okay, so you know, in quick return motion mechanism, suppose at your cutting means at the time of cutting, their special tool is used, means it will take more time to cut, but at the return time, if the tool takes the same amount of time, means it is the wastage of time, and we cannot produce more design products. So the return should be ideal and quick. That's why it is called quick return motion mechanism. And how it is possible? When you are fixing the crank. And another one is your rotary IC engine, means let me draw the figure for you. Suppose this is one cylinder, this is another cylinder. Okay, likewise, suppose this is the piston, this is the piston, and this piston is connected here, and these connecting rods are connected to, suppose, this crank. Suppose this is O1 and this is O2. Now in this there is gas or fuel which is burning. Okay, means the gas is burned, means it will provide the force or pressure to the piston, means the force will transmitted by the connecting rod here, the force is transmitted by the connecting rod here, and ultimately it will come to what point? O1 and O2. What is O1 and O2? It is your crank. But what you have done? You have just fixed the crank. Means actually if it is not fixing, means it will rotate the crank. But you are fixing the crank, then ultimately what happens? The torque produced by, means the force generated by the connecting rod, it will automatically rotate the total engine. That's why it is called rotary IC engine. It is used in previous days in your aeroplanes. This will produce more and heavy torques. Nowadays we are using gas turbines. Clear? So this is the thing when crank is fixed. Next is your when you are fixing the connecting rod. Okay, in this case similarly you will get two different machines. One is your oscillating cylinder engine, and another one is crank and slotted lever quick return motion mechanisms. Clear? Similarly, when last one is your when slider is fixed, means when we are fixing the piston. When slider is fixed, you will get the hand pump or pendulum type pump, means your hand pump. Clear? So these are the different machines of these are the different inversions of slider crank mechanisms. Okay, thank you.